Hey guys, welcome on in. It is Jordan with thebetlocker.com here to bring you another DFS first look and lineup builder for week 6 in the NFL. Been looking all morning again, seeing spots that we like, seeing spots that might be tough to get to, but we're going to dive on in and look together. Go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe. It does help. Buy yourself some good karma and hit that like button. Totally free to do so. And you will cash all of your tickets, win all your bets, and maybe place top 5 this week in DFS. I know I'm going to, so it is what it is. So, like I said, I've been looking all morning. Of course, here's DraftKings. And it is going to be a tough week, probably the most tough week that I can remember in a long time. Well, not in a long time. Probably the most tough week we're going to see this year so far, just because they actually did raise the prices on everyone. So, but that is what it is. They usually do that. They get smart with their pricing, especially with performances from guys and whatnot. So all those pricings seem to go up. So let's look together. As always, I've already entered in on my contests that I want to go into this week. I think I'm going to be playing more single entry contests instead. I do want those varieties, but I think there's spots that I can exploit in single entry this week, more so in like last week where you could just throw a dart and every guy got 20 points. I think this week is going to be much more methodical. And when that happens, I like to go single entries just because then it's my best versus everyone else's one best. And if there's spots that I like more, and especially with low ownership, I might get them on that week, regardless of the other week, like we had last week, of just, like I said, you can just pick whoever and it's the highest points. And we have a 253 point lineup that won the million, won all the contests. It's hard to win those weeks. So with it being low scoring and with you having to decide on more spots because the pricing is so high, then I feel like I like to exploit the single entries. Not what you guys have to do. I recommend always doing multi-entries, so in that way you have multiple different variations of everything. And if you just have one lineup and it just dies within the first quarter and you're just dead, it sucks to live with. But I like to do that sometimes certain weeks. This is one of those weeks. So let's look together. I'm just going to go ahead and go into the Millie Maker $20 entry fee. Doesn't really matter what I look at. Just want to show, obviously, the lineups. So let's start with QBs that I was looking at. So, I mean, in the passing game, Dallas is still giving up the most in the passing yards. So they're still averaging 284 yards per game. That number is starting to come down a little bit, but I guess it's probably because of opponents that they're facing. Justin Fields last week still got like 270 or 280, but still, they're still averaging 280 points. So, I mean, Carolina could be a very good pass, you know, Bryce Young, maybe Tet McMillan combo. I am probably going to be targeting that. It's probably going to be the first lineup that I build. Rams against Baltimore. Baltimore still, decimated at defense. And obviously Rams have so many weapons, but not really. I mean, they have a really concentrated offense. Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, and Kyron Williams. So, and they don't really have a crazy tight end that you can get burned by like other people or like other teams, I guess, to where like you take their receiver, but they keep throwing to their tight end. Rams, I mean, Stafford doesn't really do that. So that's one. Steelers giving up 260, but I don't really want to rely on Dylan Gabriel. Cincinnati's giving up 259. You could go Green Bay, but the spread is so high that maybe they're going to be running the ball more late in the game if they are up by 2 touchdowns. So that could be a little scary. You could probably go one-offs with like a Tucker Kraft. He's going to be probably very popular, but I'd rather go with him than their receivers. So just me personally. Colts versus Arizona. Arizona's giving up 254 yards. That's a good spot. I mean, they have Jonathan Taylor, which is crazy. He's crazy good, gets a lot of usage, but their passing game's not bad. Michael Pittman, obviously Tyler Warren. So that could be an option. But my favorites are probably going to be Carolina, Rams, and then at the bottom of the barrel, not really bottom, but the next tier, Seattle, Saints, and Jags. They're the teams that they're playing, they're giving up a lot of passing yards as well. So, and then in the rushing game, we'll get to there when we get to running backs, but QBs. So, like I was saying, maybe Matt Stafford stack or a Bryce Young stack. That's going to save you a lot of salary. Um, I do want to add, since we're early on, and if I'm not losing you guys yet, I do want to add that these types of weeks historically in the DFS game are usually when there is no value to go around. Let me give you an example. Last week, Bucky Irving was out, and then Rashad White comes in, and he's only in the 4K range. And same with Rico Dowdle comes in, and Chuba Hubbard was out. So he's also in the 4K range. So right there, you just fill 2 spots in the 4K range to where you can then get the expensive guys everywhere else. This week, we don't really have that. The quarterbacks are always the same, one 7K guy, and then all 6s, and then all 5s. And then there's usually a couple dart throws that you could do in the high 4K range, right? Running backs, all of their prices went up. Jonathan Taylor's up there. Christian McCaffrey. I don't really like McCaffrey's spot here, but he does get a lot of usage. Devon Achan's going to be very popular. Chargers give up the most, 174 yards per game. So he's probably going to be very popular. Josh Jacobs is going to be very popular. So, but you can see their pricing all in the 8K, 7K range again. And then when you go to wide receiver, if you want to get the best wide receiver in the game, Puka Nacua, you are paying for him. So that's what I mean by saying there's not a lot of value yet in this particular slate. And historically, when that does happen, it usually is a good tight end in the flex. So a 2 tight end lineup. A lot of people don't like to do that, but that is usually the case of how you can get your cheap spots that you need to get so you can get more expensive guys. So that's probably going to be a way that I lean this week, is just being being comfortable with being uncomfortable, like we always preach, and taking that 2 tight end lineup set. So then that way I can get some value in the flex spot. And then you're kind of sacrificing that so you can get a couple higher wide receivers and running backs. So now, having said that, let's build a lineup. So I want to target Bryce Young. I was looking at him today, and that's going to be my value spot. I mean, he's against Dallas. They're giving up a lot of yards. They're at home, and he just did that comeback win against, who the heck was it? My brain is all mush with the lineups last week. They did the comeback win against, Miami. So still at home, got Dallas coming in, Dallas giving up a ton of passing yards. Maybe that's a good spot. You get your value spot with Bryce Young, and then you go over to, and I should add, Rico Dowdle had a day, right? And Chuba Hubbard might be back. You don't know. So we don't know if they're going to be switching off, though. They really realistically should be using both of those guys more often, because Dowdle looked great last week. I don't care if it was against the very shitty Miami defense. He looked awesome. And Chuba Hubbard is also awesome. So they should be doing a 2 running back set there and switching those guys off more often. And lo and behold, I mean, the pricing for DraftKings, they're now the same price. So, but some people might be going to the running back game. Again, I don't know if people are going to go right back to Dowdle. I mean, everyone went to him last week and it paid off big time. Let's say if we're going Bryce Young, let's say we're just doing a double wide receiver thing I should say double receiver. And we go Tet McMillan. And then we go his tight end, which was, no, I don't want to go as tight end. Who was I thinking of with him? Let me just go right here. Carolina. Tommy Tremble. You could go Tommy Tremble with him. He didn't get a lot of targets last week. He only got, there we go. He only got 2 targets last week, and we thought maybe he could get maybe an easy touchdown and whatnot, but he didn't really go to him as much as we thought, because their inflated game the week before, he got those 8 targets, 5 catches, and a touchdown. So he looked a lot better, and then all of a sudden he tapered off. So what wide receivers could we go to? You could go Leggett. He had a touchdown last week. Could go Renfro. I don't really want to go there. Maybe you just go a skinny stack, him with McMillan, and then you go bring back with Ferguson. in that game. But the only way that I want to go Ferguson, bring back in that game, is if CeeDee Lamb is still out. He is questionable to return, and so you want to wait for that news come Friday. So, but let's just assume that he's still out. I would want to go to Ferguson here because he gets a lot of targets without CeeDee Lamb on the field. And then there's your skinny stack with a bring back, and it's nothing crazy, but you still have value for that. And then let's go to running backs. Let's say I really like Josh Jacobs in this against Cincinnati. Huge spread total. Might be go up early, might run the ball, and then maybe they might bench him in the fourth quarter if they're up that early, like they're assuming they're going to be. But even if they do, that means they had to be up at least 3 to 4 touchdowns. And I think Josh Jacobs is going to be involved in those touchdowns for sure. So maybe you plug him in there. There's not, like I said, there's not a crazy amount of value like we had last week in the running back position, but you could go with guys, just good guys that are getting all the usage, like Quinshon Judkins. He's getting a ton of usage. I mean, look at his usage right now. 23 attempts with 2 targets. I mean, that's 25 attempts right there, 25 looks at the ball. 21 and 4, 18 and 2. I mean, he's just becoming the workhorse, and he's taken over. So you could go someone like that who's just getting all the work at a little bit cheaper price point. Jalen Warren, he might be back. He's not questionable anymore. Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal, I mean, they're going to be probably sharing the workload. So that's probably the cheapest backs that you're going to be seeing that people are going to be maybe taking a stab on. But I mean, who do you predict? It's kind of like the Patriots game. Who do you predict out of Stevenson and Henderson? It's hard to. They're running both of them at the same time. So I would probably target, let's just go Judkins. I kind of like him against Pittsburgh just because of Pittsburgh's name alone. No one's going to really want to go like target against them. And they're still giving up. How many are they giving up? Rushing yards. Pittsburgh's giving up 122 yards per game. So you get that 100-yard bonus from Judkins. That's an extra 3 points right there. So that leaves you 5,000. I usually like to go put in a defense right now just to see what's going on as far as who that will leave me for my last 3 spots. Let's go cheap. And could go Dolphins. Chargers is still dealing with the O-line troubles. There might be one guy back, but they're still dealing with those O-line troubles. Could go right back to the Saints at home. They looked great against Jackson Dart. I mean, Drake May is a much, better player than Dart, more seasoned or whatnot. But it is tough to play at the Saints, so they're still very cheap, and they're coming off that huge, major, upset against Buffalo, their Super Bowl. But so you could go there. Let's just go there as a bring back because Saints cashed for me big time. They were the highest defense last week, and they were almost the cheapest. They were the second to last and cheapest, and they got 18 points. So that was awesome smash spot last week. So there you go. That leaves you 6,100. Let's say you do go up and get Puka Nacua because he looks like he is in an incredible spot this week, obviously. Rightfully so. I mean, he's going to be the only pay up that everyone goes and gets, and he's going to be very popular, but he deserves it. So let's say you type in him. See, this is where it leaves you 4,800. So this is what I'm saying. Maybe you go get a flex for a tight end that, like a Tucker Kraft. If you go get a Tucker Kraft, still only leaves you 49. Let's say you go get a cheap tight end. Let's say, excuse me. Woo, excuse me. Let's say you go get a cheap tight end to get you some value somewhere. So who would be a good cheap tight end that we wanted to go target? Like I was kind of preaching in the double tight end stent. Darren Waller, he might be their answer. He's looking great so far. I mean, I know a lot of people are trying not to go there, but I mean, like, he might be their answer. So, you could go, Jalen, man. Njoku ran a lot of routes. I mean, he ran 90, I don't know what it was, 90-something% of the time he was on the field. He was running routes for Dylan Gabriel. So you could go both those targeting against Pittsburgh. It's going to be very low owned. But my theory in the double tight end set, I mean, he ran a route every time he was out there. There you go, 9 targets and a touchdown. So, I mean, him and Fannin are kind of eating up their usage, but Njoku kind of seemed like the comfort um, quick pass guy in like the panic spots for Dylan Gabriel. So let me just do this so then that way it kind of shows you what I mean by that double tight end set. So flex, Njoku, you get that. And then that gives you 6,100 to where you can go get another wide receiver one. And then you have tight end one, you have tight end 1.5, should be, right? And then so what this wide receiver spot does for you is a Jalen Waddle. I mean, his usage went up since Tyreek Hill went out. And how many targets did he get last game? 9 targets, 110 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, the Chargers secondary is okay, but he's still going to get the looks. He's probably still going to get anywhere between 7 and 10 targets again. You could go a Quentin Johnston because I think people are going to be, if they are afraid of the O-line like I kind of am, then, I mean, you could go get him or someone in because it's still Justin Herbert at the end of the day. And they'd have no more Amari and Hampton, so they're going to be switching off running backs. They might be relying on the passing game a little bit more. And let me tell you a fun little spot. Everyone's been high on Jacoby Myers. Everyone has been high on him all year. He's getting a lot in, a lot of ownership, and he's burned everyone so far. So I think he's going to be very low owned. He's still getting the targets. I still think I like Trey Tucker a little bit more, but this could be one of those spots where he is less than 5% owned, and they're against a Tennessee Titans team who's given up how many yards per game? They're giving up. I don't have it off the top of my head, off the top right now, but I know they're not great. It's not a great secondary, and it's not a great Tennessee defense in general. And you could plug him in as your low. You have 300 remaining. You could maybe switch a spot around or two. Maybe if you don't want Judkins, you can go pick up a Derrick Henry. He's going to be low owned again too as well. But the only way that the Ravens are going to get there at all is going to be through Henry. And so that's one lineup or one thought process that you can do with that double tight end set, and to get your value not only with Bryce Young but David Njoku in that flex spot, so in that way you can get some premium players within everywhere else. So that's what I'm meaning also when you're building these lineups. Of what I'm saying is it's going to be hard to find that value, and it's not going to be that dart throw like it was last week where everyone was getting points and everyone cost 4,000, so you could go get whoever you wanted. So let's try one more. I would like to probably target, I'll tell you a very popular one is going to be Matt Stafford and Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua. That stack right there is going to be very popular. It leaves you no room for anyone else, and that is definitely going to be another double tight end set. But what you could do is you could run Kyron Williams with Puka without a Stafford, and then you could go get a cheaper quarterback like a Tua at home, or you could go get a Darnold against that Jacksonville who Patrick Mahomes was throwing all over. You could go get a Geno against the Titans. You could go get Jacksonville against Seattle, who Baker Mayfield just threw all over with Emeka Ibuka. Let's try that. Let's try Trevor Lawrence but who's he going to throw to? I mean, you can't really rely on Brian Thomas. It's so scary to rely on Brian Thomas as your skinny stack with Trevor Lawrence. Maybe you go something like, something I kind of like. He's been burning everyone and everyone's been on him, but they're finally at home against a Tennessee defense that is continuously losing. So maybe you go like a Geno and then I know you're going to want to go Ashton, and he's probably in the best spot against Tennessee. But maybe if Ashton is double digits or up to 20% owned, you go Geno with Jacoby Myers, who everyone is getting burned by, and Trey Tucker, who, if you watch my previous videos, you know that I kind of feel like he's that Cooper Kupp role with Matt Stafford years ago when it was Cooper and Puka. But Cooper went off because he was just always that slant guy that was always open and getting a lot of yards after catch. I kind of feel like that's the Trey Tucker spot. Geno is very comfortable with just going straight to Tucker in so many situations, and he's kind of he's always his out guy, like Cooper Kupp used to be. So you could go something like that. That's how you get on the chalk with Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams, but then get off of it by going a Geno stack with these guys. And honestly, against a shitty Raiders defense to where you can go a cheap Calvin Ridley as a bringback. I mean, you saw he was finally getting looks last week. So if you go like a Calvin Ridley, how much was he? He's only 4,900. Go him as a cheap spot. You don't want him in the flex though. Let's grab him in here. 4,900 Calvin Ridley. Oh, gosh dang. Oh, I have all receiver stuff. Okay, so let's say you go with him in the flex, and then tight end, you go. There are guys that are going to be very popular, but it's because in tight end spot, but it's because they had so many touchdowns last week. So it's like you kind of got to pick and choose. Like, are they going to continuously get those touchdowns? Like a Barner, he got 2 touchdowns last week, so that's why he got there. But if you notice, I mean, he still had 7 targets, but only 50 yards. So that's why he got 24 points. I mean, he's been getting almost a touchdown a game, though. So maybe go AJ Barner. They haven't really raised his price crazy. He's only 3,600. But another point that I want to point out. Oh, he's not playing this week. It was the Giants tight end Johnson. He got 2 touchdowns last week as well with Dart. So, but let's say you trust it and you think he's going to score against these Jacksonville. So that's 3,600. Then you tie in that cheap defense, which is going to be Saints again. That leaves you 8,300. You can go get whoever you want. Honestly, you could go get, if you really wanted to, Josh Jacobs is in a smash spot. That leaves you 1,000 on the table, and maybe you switch out. Excuse me. Maybe you switch out. Little tickle in my throat here going on. You guys know I'm human, right? Oh, excuse me. Anyways, maybe you go like because you have 1,000 now on the table. Maybe you don't trust. You just go the skinny with Geno and Tucker, and you don't trust Jacoby because he is burning everyone. And now you can go get George Pickens. You could even do a triple stack without a Stafford and a skinny. I mean, you're going to be completely different if you do that. But if you do that, I mean, most likely if Nacua and Adams are getting there, then so is Stafford. So you don't really want to do that. So maybe you go like a George Pickens if CeeDee Lamb is still not there and not on the field. So something like that. Let's build one more together, guys. I know last week I only gave 2, but I want to talk through these a little bit more just so that way you can kind of see my thought process on how I go through it. And I'm only going to be I'm going to be giving out my cheat sheet on Saturday this week because when I gave it out on Friday, I had to give way too many updates in the Discord for all the injury news. And it's a good thing that I did. But if you were to get my sheet early and just use those guys, so many injuries came out that like Dowdle wasn't on there, but I gave him in. Was it Dowdle or Rashad White? Rashad White wasn't on there. And so that's when I definitely in Discord gave Rashad White because Bucky ended up being ruled out Friday night. And then Rashad White was in the smash spot. So give that in Discord, but it's not on my cheat sheet because I make it too early. So I'm going to make it Friday night after I see all the injury updates and whatnot. But anyways, I want to give another lineup because I noticed I only gave 2 last week. So just as long as this human tickle goes away in my throat. All right, so we targeted Bryce Young. We targeted Geno Smith, maybe a Stafford lineup that's going to be very popular. Let's go right back to the well. I wanted to target some of these defenses that is giving up a lot of yards. You could go Seattle versus Jags. They're both giving up yards in that secondary. So let's say, I don't know who the bring back would be for Jags that I'd feel comfortable with because his throwing, I mean, Brian Thomas, or Travis Hunter, I don't know, Washington. I don't know. You don't really want, I don't know who the bringbacks would be. I mean, you don't have to do a bring back if you don't want to, but let's just see what it looks like. Let's say Sam Darnold goes into another smash spot with Jackson Smith-Njigba. And he's pretty expensive, but he's in a good matchup against Jacksonville. So maybe you do something like that. And then you could go another cheap with Barner if you think he's going to get another touchdown and some looks again still. And then maybe you go a running back. Let's just see who a bring back would be for Jacksonville. Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter got quite a bit of looks this last game. Only 3 targets. He just turned it into a lot, so that's why it felt like a lot. So only 9 points. He's not getting anything crazy. Plus, if you watch that game, he went in on offense and then he went in on defense, got stumbled on or something, then limped to the sideline. So like he's just in a risky spot, always playing both sides of the ball. If you get injured on that defense, you're not going to see him on the offense. He's just so hard and unpredictable to take. Let's try Parker Washington. He got some looks. He got the touchdown. That's why he looked okay. I think Barner and Smith, and then you don't even need to bring back with these guys. Brenton Strange might be injured. So you could go Travis Etienne. How much does he cost? He's only 5,900. Wow. I guess they probably don't think that he is going to do very good against Seattle. Let's tie him in. He's probably going to be low owned, but I mean, he is their workhorse still. Tootin's just getting, if you notice, they tried to get Tootin involved, but now he's just not getting, he's getting these scraps. I mean, 4 attempts and only 1 target in each game. I mean, he's starting to get the scraps. You started to feel like in the second game, okay, they're going to, I mean, because he's good. He's definitely going to be the takeover, but they're just riding their hot hand with Travis Etienne, and so he's the workhorse. Maybe that's your bring back to be different, because a lot of people are going to do the bring back with receivers. So maybe you don't do that. Maybe you do the bring back with a running back. And then who does that leave you with? Let's go look for maybe Kyron Williams. Let's just try it again. Kyron Williams with Puka. What was that leave you? That would leave you 4,100. There's one guy, there's not really any guys that I like in the 4K range in wide receivers. Maybe a Josh Downs, maybe a Rashid Shaheed just has that one catch. Is he going to have it again? I don't know. You know how I feel. I like Trey Tucker. Is there anyone cheaper? Horton, that could be a secondary spot that you can go to. Torrey Horton. Darnold kind of likes to throw to him. Leggett, Booty, Isaiah Bond, Taven Wicks. I don't like any of these stuff. Malik Washington for Miami to be that secondary receiver. He gets some targets. He got 5 targets last game. Didn't turn it into absolute shit, but at least he's getting the targets. Florney, he got a shitload of targets last week without CeeDee Lamb in there. So if CeeDee Lamb is out still, and it's kind of like that T. Higgins, Jamar Chase thing, to where like they're so focused on Jamar Chase that T. Higgins gets all the usage. Could be the same thing. Maybe Carolina is just so focused on George Pickens to where Florney gets a lot of looks again. That could be your cheap spot. He's only 3,600. He's probably the only guy that I like in the 3K range at all. Like I said, guys, this is a prime example. I mean, you have to go to 3K guys to get any. And like, do you feel comfortable with that? Not as comfortable as last week as you did with Rashad White and Rico Dowdle. They were just in a smash spot. They were going to get all the usage and all the running back play. So it's going to be a tough week. I can just already foresee it. And that's where you need to exploit some spots to where you just play that ownership game and you try and get the same with everyone else. And then you take a stand, or you take a chance on one guy, and that's it. And that one guy can be the difference this week again. Or that double tight end set in the tight end and the flex spot. That historically has always been what people go to and what wins when there's no value to go around. So let's just finish this lineup here. Defense with another cheap defense. I've gone Saints twice. Let's try Dolphins, just because let's say they get pressure on Chargers. Let's say you get Hassan Haskins, who hasn't played hardly at all, and Vidal, and they get a couple fumbles. You never know. So let's tie them in on defense. And that leaves you 6,700 for your flex spot, Devontae Adams. But you already I already did the Puka and the Kyron again with this lineup. So who would you get here? Let's say, oh man, I want to go more expensive. Ashton Jonty's in a smash spot. Let's say you go cheaper. Jalen Waddle, he's going to get a lot of targets. Tet McMillan again. Maybe you go Tet McMillan in that spot, and that gives you the wide receiver battle right here, just like you saw last week with Smith and Najigba and Ibuka. But you got Tet McMillan and Florida instead as the wide receiver battle. Oh man, I don't like that. but that leaves you 700. So then that way you can go get an actual maybe good defense. Bucks for San Fran. I mean, do you really trust? I mean, Mac Jones is good, but I don't know. So, anyways, that's kind of what it looks like, guys. That's what the week is going to be looking like. Try and find value where you can. Maybe look at those double tight end sets this week. Maybe take one stab at one different guy. Look at all the ownerships of everyone and see who everyone is taking, and only get different in that one spot. Here is a preview of our cheat sheet. So this, like I said, I'm going to post this on Saturday. So in that way I can have all the injury news as late as possible that I can, specifically in that Friday afternoon. And then this will all be posted and I will lock down my ownership. So in that way I can find that one guy in this under 10% owned GPP play that you can find and plug into your lineups. So in that way you can be different and that can win you the slate. So as always, it's cheap. I wanted to make it cheap so in that way we all win together and just share my knowledge together as cheap as possible. You get all your locker picks for all your locker picks, all your DFS cheat sheets, your prop bets, daily picks, and free picks, all for either $6.99 a week or $19.99 a month. Dirt cheap. If you buy a month, you're basically getting 2 weeks free. So, and you get access, like I always preach, to our Discord channel as well. And that is where we do a lot of extra winning with all of our members. So that's it, guys. Let's have a good week. Be on the lookout for my props video tomorrow and then my free picks videos on Friday. Okay, guys, have a good week and let's make some money. We'll see you guys.